Are you going to speak? All right. I won't say in front of you. I'm good, Stan. I just wanted to get some beauty.
All right, before we started with today's meeting, Neighborhoods and Livability Committee, you can take roll.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Ward.
Present.
Councilmember Saldana. Councilmember Lopez. Councilmember Medina.
Here.
And Chairman Trevino.
Here.
Chairman, we have four.
Councilman Saldana, please. Okay, I believe the first order of business is to have the approval of the minutes.
Correct.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So minutes passed. So now we'll go on to citizens to be heard. I'm not sure which I should start with first.
We don't have, yeah, we have a few.
We'll start with this list here. I believe, so we want to give what, how many minutes? 2 minutes to each person. Okay, so we'll start with, we have Delmo Franco.
Belmont Franco. You may speak. You can come up just in front of the bond from right here. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Thelma Franco, and I live at 7115 West Beverly Maid in the Dream Hill Estates. And I'm just here to ask the council for the citizens to be heard here at Dream Hill Estates. There are many of us that live there, and ever since Planned Parenthood has come into the neighborhood, there has been many disruptions, not only to parking, to the traffic flow going through, to the people that go there to the facility also walking through the neighborhood. We have already had some break-ins since the facility's been there. We've had such a quiet neighborhood I've been in the neighborhood, I've lived there in the neighborhood for over 22 years. And we have had a quiet neighborhood with not a lot of disturbances other than the deers and raccoons and other animals. And this facility has brought so much disruption to our neighborhood, even to the elderly. We have one elderly lady that lives right there beside it, and ever since this started, you know, in the parking, people would come deliver or whatever. They park and she cannot get out of her home. And she's just very distressed about it. And so are a lot of the other elderly neighborhood residents there. And we've had some residents that have wanted to actually move since this facility, Planned Parenthood, has come in there. And we've known that the zoning was approved as a C3 when it was never a C3. And they've changed wording to suit themselves. And thank you.
Ms. Brown. We have Lovey Rojas.
Sorry, it's Lori.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You look like a
Might be
Vietnamese.
my,
I apologize.
it's probably just my
Lori
bad spelling.
Lori Rojas.
My name is Lori Rojas, and I also live in Dream Hills Estates. I live at 4811 Betty Loop, and I urge you today to vote no to the UDC amendment change. We did have two neighbors, Dr. Timothy Barker and Robert Berry. Robert Berry was a professional engineer for over 40 years, and Dr. Timothy Barker has been a practicing physician for over 20 years. They authored UDC amendment supporting ambulatory surgical centers, and their wording was changed after it had previously been approved to go into different locations. So today I urge you to vote no to ambulatory surgical center language that you have before you. Also, what has been a big problem for me lately is that our neighborhood is over 150 years old. So with that, we have a diverse group of people. We have owners, we have renters, we have young, we have a lot of senior citizens. With Planned Parenthood, it's a brand new, like they went in and completely remodeled the facility. So having a new facility adjoining an old neighborhood, our water main breaks all the time. So in front of my house, it's been broken for the last 3 weeks, and we had to threaten to go to the news, and guess what? They came out. So they started working on it last week, and we had 10 kids in the area, so it was posing a threat because it started to be stagnant water. And SAWS has told us that this will repeatedly happen because of the commercial traffic that is going through our neighborhood, when we don't even have a street wide enough for 2 cars to pass at one time. So it has been a problem in the sense that how do you tell a 5-year-old what STDs are? I mean, that's the entrance to our neighborhood. We have no buffer. We have been set up with a commercial business that is located just 70 kids are right beside us.
Thank you,
So
Ms.
big thing, please vote down the UDC amendment.
Thank you, Ms. We have McGinty.
Hi, my name is Ione McGinty, and my son used to go to Mission Therapy, which is housed in the Planned Parenthood building there. And I was interested in coming to this meeting because it says it's neighborhoods and livability. And I would like to just say that, let y'all know the bullying that we received as patients at the physical therapy by Planned Parenthood. Every time I would park there, I have pro-life stickers on my van. People from Planned Parenthood would come and tell me to get out, we're gonna call the police. I was repeatedly threatened by the Planned Parenthood employees, following me out to my car, bullying me. This is not conducive for a neighborhood. Then I found out that the facility is there, it's not even zoned properly. So I'm asking y'all to look at the disparity between having a facility that kills unborn children housed with a practice that is supposed to heal patients. And I know there's a lot of people that go into physical therapy that were appalled that it was a Planned Parenthood. And so I'm urging y'all to vote down because this is not a family-friendly business. I can tell you my son did not want to continue his physical therapy at this location because he's appalled at what goes on in the building. Anyway, I just urge y'all to vote it down and, protect our neighborhoods at all costs and don't let this, just get by. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Getty. We have Mr. Patrick Van Dolen.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Von Dolan with the San Antonio Family Association, and we presented for the last year in front of the City Council. And one of the things that's presented that's going to be going around right now to you is the city began this process this year of every 5 years under a city-citizen partnership. And this is an application actually by Dr. Timothy Barker, and while I'm doing it, would all the residents of Dreamhill Estates stand up that are in the room? All the residents of Dreamhill Estates. These ladies are here with their husband in spirit, and because they're working. And Ms. Ellen Barker, right here to your right, Mr. Trevino, is her husband, Dr. Timothy Barker, put forth the amendment to UDC under that city-citizen partnership. And thank y'all for being here because they're very upset about what's happening at their neighborhood, and that this has happened to Dreamhill Estates neighborhood in large part. And I'm glad Rod Sanchez is here today to see the residents here, because they're very upset because his material of similar use determination that he made, his office made, to allow Planned Parenthood South Texas as an ambulatory surgery center to move adjacent to their neighborhood has disrupted and caused a cataclysmic event. Their neighborhood is now divided. It's no longer a peaceful place to live, and they're being subjected, the residents are being subjected to all sorts of things, including minor children who have age inappropriate situations where they're asking mom and dad about what are STDs. It's on their sign. And what's birth control? These are elementary age school kids, and they've been put in a situation, and therefore the neighborhood and livability, quality, and standards have been greatly diminished and reduced. And so I'm glad you're here, Rod, to hear about the damage that's been caused because of your office's decision. But this is the application that was submitted by Dr. Timothy Barker. It's very simple. It says that all ambulatory surgical centers shall be only zoned in C2 and C3 zone districts. It was right after that Planning Commission Technical Advisory Committee that they suggested, and actually the Planning Commission, they suggested they need an amendment that totally modified this situation and marginalized it. Please vote no on this UDC amendment.
Kaufman or
Kanufke.
Kanefke? Sorry.
You're close. My name is Mike Kanufke, and I'm with the San Antonio Family Association. And I guess what I'd like to talk about here today is there is a beautiful mixed-use neighborhood here. Anywhere from $180,000 homes up to $1 million homes. I happened to catch a revitalization session and study that's taking place in the city of San Antonio. And the thought occurred to me, if we didn't tear down via zoning or what have you, the neighborhoods around San Antonio, we wouldn't have to worry about revitalizing anything. In fact, the description they had of this revitalized neighborhood and the mixed use fits this neighborhood perfectly, except for their focus on inside 410, and this is, as you know, a little bit outside 410. So the question remains, where do you want these facilities? Where do you want ambulatory surgery centers? This is not Houston. We didn't move to Houston. We spend millions of dollars, administratively for zoning. And if this were Houston where there was no zoning and whatever you want to build, you just build wherever it is, it's a little bit different. But we have a lot of people on staff, pay a lot of money to make certain our zoning is taken care of. As a matter of fact, under the expansion of the city going out I-10, one of the main keys are where we have zoning. We have good zoning to make certain this isn't going to happen. And the point is, it does happen. It happened right here. So now, just so we're clear, this facility is within 50 feet. 50 feet, killing is taking place. Whether you agree with the board or don't agree with the board, it doesn't. Killing, actual human life killing, is taking place within 50 feet of the sanctity of someone's home. That's the truth. That's the facts. And that is what's taking place here. And that is the atrocities. And this is what we're talking about with the residents. It seems as if The city of San Antonio has turned a blind eye to this special organization. We ask you to vote no on this amendment. Thank you.
Is it Lynette King?
Yes, thank you.
Lynette King.
Good afternoon. My name is Renee King, and I'm the president of Eldorado Homes Association. I live at 5331 Sierra Madre. Thank you, Chairman Trevino. Thank you, Councilman Watt. Thank you, Councilman Silvani, for your time today and representing good people. I just wanted to ask you to hear the people that are speaking with you, and this is your opportunity to stand up for the little people. I stand for the little people, for the voices who are not heard. And that's one of the things that you, as councilmen, have an opportunity to do, to stand up for those that have not been heard before. And I ask you to stand up for what's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. King. That concludes citizens to be heard. And we'll continue with item number 2, consideration of applicants to the municipal golf. Now, we'll move to item number 4, briefing and possible action on amendments to Chapter 35 of the UDC Code. Mr. Sanchez.
Good afternoon. All right, this is the UDC amendment process. The UDC, as we know it, came into existence in 2001. We had a fairly long process, and a consultant come in from out of town and helped us prepare this document. It was adopted in 2001. We used to update the code every year, but it was decided it was too hard to keep up with the changes. So we're currently doing it every 5 years. So every 5 years, city staff, council, the planning commission, zoning commission, board of adjustments, and even HDRC, they're free to submit any amendment to the code. It can be minor, it can be a clarification, it can be a major amendment to the code. They're free to do that. The code also allows for outside agencies or outside citizens to submit amendments to the code. However, those are limited to editing and clarification amendments. And the idea there is when we work on a tree ordinance, we work on a lighting ordinance to protect Camp Willis. Council didn't want there to be an open season on those amendments that we worked so hard on. So they limit those outside amendments to editing and clarification. So this year, this round, we did 260 amendments to the code, and they were submitted by both internal and external agencies, departments. You can see this slide. These are the internal departments: Development Services, City Attorney, SAWS, Bear County. They submitted amendments to the code. We also received 76 amendments from external citizens, different groups. As you can see, there's some different groups on here: the Food Policy Council, HEB, the Real Estate Council, SARA, and the Green Industry submitted some amendments to the code. The next slide. As I mentioned, for those external agencies, they're limited to submitting editing and minor clarification amendments to the code. So what we do is we go through an evaluation process of those amendments. The TAC and the Planning Commission evaluates them to see if they meet that criteria. And in this case, 33 of the 76 amendments submitted from those outside agencies either met the criteria or the Planning Commission chose to sponsor those amendments. So in other words, if there was a major amendment submitted by somebody, did not meet the criteria, the Planning Commission said, you know what, it's a great idea, we're going to sponsor that amendment. So 33 of those met the criteria or became sponsored by the Planning Commission. On this next slide, I want to call your attention to this one. On this particular slide, this is for ambulatory centers, ambulatory surgery centers. The Planning Commission found this to be a major amendment. So that amendment basically died at that point. And they did something unique on this one. They said, we're going to sponsor our own amendment, but it's going to be a little bit different than what was submitted. What we want to do is we want to define what an ambulatory surgical center is, but have no impact to zoning. In other words, it's currently allowed in the office districts, it's currently allowed in C, the C1, C2, C3 districts. Did not want to impact that at all. So it would continue to be allowed in those districts. We just want to define it as basically being a clinic. So that became the sponsored amendment by the Planning Commission. So all other amendments at that point died, and if they were submitted by external agencies, that they weren't sponsored by the Planning Commission, they didn't meet the criteria, they no longer were amendments. So then we proceed on with all the amendments. Today, TAC has approved over 200. Those 260 now are down to 200 amendments that have been approved by TAC. and they're moving on through the process. By and large, little controversy with the amendments, but there are a few that I thought I'd share with you today where we had some at-length discussion. The first one had to do with historic preservation. And what this would allow is, if there's a violation of historic property, if it's a violation of Chapter 6, a historic violation, historic goes and cites it for that violation. If they don't clean up the violation, the city can go in and do it for them and bill them for cleaning it up. What this amendment would do is allow us to place a lien on that property if they don't pay for whatever it is we did to clean up the violation. So that one received some discussion. The next one was submitted by TCI, and what this would do is require a bicycle lane on every arterial collector street in the city of San Antonio. This one received quite a bit of discussion. There's concern about the cost that this would add to folks developing these properties. And it's a big change from where we're at today. Today, they're only required to put these on streets that are on the bike plan. So this would be a change from that. Development Services had an amendment. Basically, what we were saying is that if we were doing a zoning case that also required a plan amendment, or it required a conditional use, so they weren't actually changing the base district, but they were going to change through conditional use, allow some use that wasn't allowed by the plan. We were trying to basically let them do that without changing the plan, so we're not changing the base district. After some discussion with the city attorney's office and going through Planning and Zoning Commission, we backed off of that amendment. However, there's still some language in there that we want to go forward with. When we look at the code, there's not a lot of language in there about a plan amendment. There's tons of language about a zoning case, but not about a plan amendment. So this basically would have us follow the same process for plan amendments, with the exception we'd be going through the planning commission versus the zoning commission. So that amendment is proceeding. And then, of course, the ambulatory surgical center. That one, basically we have a definition, makes saying it would be allowed everywhere a clinic's allowed. We define it to be a clinic, and we continue to be allowed in the office districts, the NC, C1, C2, C3 districts. And that one, obviously, we'd like folks are here to talk about that one today, so we received quite a bit of discussion. The TAC favorable amendments, that everything that's coming forward with the exception of the bicycle lane one, they recommended denial of that one due to the cost that amendment would have on the development or the developer. Also wanted to share with you, TAC is not done. There's still 2 amendments that they're working on. One is LID, just a huge amendment. We don't have any standards for doing low impact development in our city. So this amendment is including the standards, including review processes, it includes incentives, maintenance, what happens if someone doesn't maintain one of these facilities. So very complicated amendment that's still working its way through the TAC. This amendment will not be coming to council in December. Most likely won't be. It's maybe come to this committee in January and possibly to council in February. So we're still working on the lid, and also there's a conservation subdivision as well. Just trying to clean those up and put them together at a later time. This Board of Adjustment recommendations. Board of Adjustment recommended approval of everything the TAC recommended approval of. And HDRC recommended approval of all the historic amendments that were proposed by Office of Historic Preservation. The Zoning Commission, they recommended denial of that one amendment I was talking about requiring the plan amendment. So we've removed that, but we're still going forward with all the other language clarifying with how you would do a change to a neighborhood plan. Planning committee, they recommended, there was no recommendation on the ambulatory surgical center. There was 6 or 7 members there at the time, so they could not get 6 votes. So that amendment got no recommendation. And the same thing happened with that one to the Office of Historic Preservation for placing the lien on the property as a violation. Only 6 or 7 zoning commission members there. They could not get 6 votes to pass it. So that one came out with no recommendation. So we have a denial for an amendment that's been tweaked to remove what's no longer an issue. And then the other 2 did not get a recommendation. We just didn't have the numbers there that day. The Planning Commission, Also recommended denial of that conditional use. Once again, no big deal. We changed that amendment, so it's no longer an issue. And Planning Commission also recommends denial to the bike lane facilities. Once again, due to the cost of adding those to every collector and arterial street. And I just wanted to mention this to you, that first slide there, HEB had an amendment that was going to limit the amount of sidewalks they had to put in. Since we submitted the briefing note to you, though, they have withdrawn that amendment. Staff was opposed to that amendment. So we had a discussion with HEB, and they pulled back that amendment. So that amendment is no longer in your packet for consideration. And with that, staff recommends approval of all the amendments before you today.
Okay. Well, I just have a few comments, and my colleagues, if you have any questions. I think the placement of the lien for properties of historic violations, I think that makes sense, and especially since we just recently passed a more thoughtful process with regard to demolition. My hope is that whatever liens we are putting on are more thought out, and certainly this put us in a better position. So I think I'm okay with that. You mentioned TCI and the amendment to require bicycle lane facilities on collectors and arterial streets being a cost issue. Do we know how much of a cost issue?
Okay. Anthony was here. Oh, Terry, sorry. There's Terry. Terry, to be fair, asking about costs and costs associated with that.
So they were debated. We basically thought they would be very neutral in the case where the material collector already existed, then it would just be marking of the facility. If it's a new facility, then the developer will have to give additional right-of-way in order to put the bike facility in. The current ordinance basically says that it could also be a mixed facility. It could be a bike and sidewalk combined. So our recommendation was to do it on all collector streets and arterial where feasible. And it would help grow our network of bike facilities, because we're seeing an increase of bike usage throughout the city.
So can you want to help us define feasible?
Feasible is that if the condition of the roadway is such that a bicycle could be facilitated, if it's a safe condition, then we will recommend it. If it was a winding road with a lot of curves and maybe drop off that would not be safe for bicycles, we would not recommend that a bike facility be placed on that facility.
So we're looking at safety issues.
We're looking at safety
precautions.
issues. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Belli.
Thank you.
Lastly, well, a few other things I think regarding the ambulatory surgical center, and again, that's just a clarification, as you stated.
We are basically defining it as a clinic, so we're clarifying that it would continue to be allowed in the office district in CC1, C2 security districts.
Okay. And then I think lastly, I want to mention, so the TAC will still consider low impact development, and we would see that in February. So I think I like that. So it shows that we're definitely going to be looking at more potential items to consider in this committee.
Yes, it's a huge task to digest that amendment. Code doesn't have anything in it about low impact development today, so have to come up with standards, processes to review, any incentives. It's an option. It won't be a mandatory requirement, so we have to incentivize people to do it, make sure those are in place. Consequences, if someone will continue to have the lit feature, and then of course the maintenance component is very important to that. So all that's being worked out. We have a TAC meeting November 23rd, and then hopefully we can get to the commission, boards and commissions in December, to this committee in January, and council in February.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ward?
On the low impact development, how much does the state play into that conversation?
Right now, this is an ordinance for the city of San Antonio. There's an interest in doing that type of development. So we just want to lay the standards down for people to follow.
And no other city in the state has done anything?
I don't have information on it. I'm sure there are others. It is something that people are interested in doing. It's a different way of handling drainage. We want to clean the water before it gets into our creeks. So So I'm sure it's out there in other cities. We just need to catch up.
Councilman Sabati.
Thank you, Chairman. As a question of or a point of process, any individual citizen can recommend or put forward an amendment to the UDC, and you all have been crafting what has been, what will be the final draft that we vote on for 5 years, as opposed to a past in which we took these up every single year.
Right, every 5 years, it's open season on the code. Staff, council, boards and commissions, SAW, CPS, the county can submit basically any amendment, major or minor. But for external, citizens, they're allowed to submit amendments that are minor or clarification. They're not allowed to submit major amendments. So what we have to do is when we get those amendments, we have to go through the TAC and the planning commission for them to vet those to decide if they meet the criteria. Are they minor or are they not? And if they're a major amendment, the planning commission at that point can do two things. One, they can say it's a major amendment, we don't want to proceed with it, it dies. Or they can say, you know what, we want to sponsor an amendment. So in this case, there were 33 that either met the criteria or were sponsored, up to 76 that were submitted.
So as a theoretical scenario, I can, as a citizen, not in my capacity as councilman, say or read in the current UDC that we require 6-foot sidewalks. I could say for safety reasons, for mobility reasons, we should do 10-foot sidewalks. That would go to you or your office, and they would review that.
So we process it, and then we would take to the planning commission, or the TAC and planning commission, they would say, not councilman, Mr. Citizen, that looks like a major amendment to me. So that does not meet the criteria of UDC. And then the planning commission then would decide if they want to sponsor that amendment or not. If you submitted an amendment, you know, it was a little bit gray, or for example, there's a section at Director of Planning and Development Services, that department doesn't exist anymore, it's the Development Services Department, isn't it? That would be a minor clarification that a citizen would be allowed to submit.
Well, I'll just comment on the low impact development, which I think you all had some reluctance, or some folks had some reluctance in moving forward completely. I find understandable in that it's a relatively new concept, but I think as we're exploring these, we are going to have a few proof of concepts on the ground pretty soon. I know that the San Antonio River Authority is sponsoring and helping to manage a lot of the program. It's essentially trying to build out new developments, but being mindful to pervious cover, being mindful to the quality of water that's flowing into the creeks. I imagine that the next time we'll have an opportunity to make a solid decision on that would be in another 5 years, if it is not passed in this UDC.
Right. Of course, the council is always free to do consideration requests, and can add them in the next time. But the next time we would have the opportunity, and then the UDC as a whole would yet be 5 years.
And Chairman, for our purposes here, we are moving forward the recommendations to the full council, which is the next step to be voted on.
There will be a D session on December the 2nd. And then, yes, we're asking for take the council after that. December 10th is the day we're looking for.
I move that we move the entire discussion to the full council.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We have Councilman Medina.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question on slide 11, just so that I can understand this, and I'm glad that we are having an opportunity to vet this at a session very soon. But on DST Amendment 28-102, it says denial.
Right.
Okay, and then you talked about we didn't have, this is formal, we didn't have enough folks on zoning to issue a recommendation, so there's no recommendation was given. Is that correct? Okay, and then the final one as well.
Right.
So
We had either 6 or 7 members of the zoning commission present that day. And for anything to pass zoning commission, you need 6 votes. So with only 6 or 7 members there, you need to get.
exactly. So those are simply, we just didn't have more. We didn't have, it wasn't an issue of.
We couldn't get, we couldn't get 6 votes.
Okay, well, I'm glad that, again, I'm glad that we have an opportunity to vet this more at a session, and then also have the entire council vote on all the. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I just want to touch on the statements that Councilman Sabani made on LID. I think it is important. It's a new technology. I'm glad that we'll probably be hearing more about it in February. It gives us a chance to try out new things. I encourage us to try some new systems because it is a new design technology, and I look forward to seeing some of that as we move through. We know that we will need to try to build in some flexibility on how we approach this so that we're not waiting for another 5 years on what we do with the lid. And the last clarification, I guess staff is recommending approval for all of these, although I heard Mr. Bellamy say that they wanted some flexibility on the bike lanes. Is that correct?
We recommended the bike lane, but one of the things that we did say at committee that we're doing the bike master plan update right now, and that's taking place as part of SA tomorrow. And so if it got tabled, we will be bringing it back once we bring SA tomorrow to the full council.
Well, I want to ask my council members how they feel about that. I think since we're talking about taking it to B session anyway, I think we can have further discussion on this. Would you be okay if we, so go ahead, Mr. Warren.
Could we have further discussion on all the denied items since they didn't have
Full council.
Yes.
At B session?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're gonna read my back.
So I guess what I'm asking is this group okay with moving in with the staff recommendations? And then, of course, we have the opportunity to take your consideration at B session. Yeah. Okay. So we have a
Quick comment.
yes.
Just as a quick comment, I know we have some guests from Greenville Estates that brought up some valid concerns about parking and people in the neighborhood that really are not there to visit residents. I think that's a valid living quality of life concern. I don't know if was it Eric. I don't know if we have a parking solution that we discussed, and maybe it's outside the realm of this discussion, but at the very least to temper some of those concerns that they're dealing with in the neighborhood now. Is that still in the pilot phase? Are we deploying that parking solution for folks?
I believe so, Councilman, but I can find out.
I know that that's outside the scope of the discussion here, but those are real concerns and that we'd like to address.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll follow up with those parking concerns as well. We have a motion and a second to approve staff recommendations on the UDC amendments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those against? Motion passes. We'll go on to item number 5, briefing and possible action on request to amend Chapter 36 of the zoning ordinance of the City Code of San Antonio to restrict the sale and possession of e-cigarettes to anyone under 18.